All right, so Mr. Justin Hageman. So here we go, Mr. Justin. So I think everybody knows of you. I think that's a fair statement. I mean, everybody sees you picking up big checks on stage. We see you consistently hitting the $1 million club year after year. I mean, you know, your run in Sidcor has treated you rather well, I would say, between all the promoting owner bonuses, the $1 million club winning, you know, growing your organization, all that good stuff. So let's just start off with, what's your messaging to your organization right now?
Sure. Yeah, I think, and you know, you tee it all up like it's me. It's really not. I think I've been lucky and blessed to be surrounded by a lot of really good people, but I also think it comes from being like a reflection of, you know, what I feel like are values for them too. And I think that common-minded people are attracted to other people like that too. So I think what's really cool though is how well the last two guys that I promoted are doing. I promoted Cole a year ago, and Cole's average wire the last 10 weeks has been $40,000. And I promoted Cooper February the 26th, and Cooper's average wire since he opened his office has been $19,000, and he just had his first $30,000 wire this week. So it's cool to see the guys doing so well, but I think it kind of comes from like just getting into business, a money mindset. And if we're going to do something and we're going to spend this much time like running an office and going out and visiting with our guys and spending time with our teams, why would we not want to be the guys that get the recognition and be great? You know what I mean? And that's like something I think my biggest asset that I have is that I'm a fucking grinder. And I want to be the best at whatever I do. And you could take me out of this and put me in to be a garbage delivery guy or garbage pickup guy, and everybody in the neighborhood would know who was coming to pick their garbage up because I would make a presence known, you know? And I think that when we're talking about like building companies and building your organization and building your office and your team camaraderie, it like comes with that same kind of standard of, if we're going to do this, why not be the best at it? Why not be great at it? Why not set a tone and set a name for yourself? And that's kind of the thing that, you know, I tell the guys when they're getting ready to open their office is, if you're going to do it, you might as well go do it, be great, be talked about in a positive way. Because one way or another, everybody in the country knows who's opening offices and they know how well you do. So you would much rather them be excited and brag on you and want you to like contribute across the country for doing great than be the person that gets a call every month saying, hey, you're not hitting standards, and hey, you got to pick up these types of sales, right? So it's just like a mindset of being great at what we're doing. If we're going to spend this much time doing it, we might as well be really good at it, you know? So
I mean, that's the mindset to have. I mean, if you're going to play, why not play to win, right?
sure.
And so,
Go ahead.
I mean, you've I mean, tell me if my math is off, but every year you've been an ICL owner, you've hit the $1 million club? You're either thinking or you're frozen. He's pondering, he's doing the math.
Ted did not. Last year I must be frozen because everyone else moving, but I'm not.
Yeah, you were froze. We thought you were just really.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh no. What it is, Jamie. I'm cheap. Hold on one second. I'm going to connect them.
Got it.
All right. We should be good now. Are we better now?
Your lips are moving.
Okay. Are we back? Are we home?
We can hear you.
All right. So I think what it was, I'll tell you what's wrong. I'm connected to my neighbor's Wi-Fi. I went over there and I was doing some work the other night. Now my computer automatically connects to hers, so it never works. But I don't even remember what you said now. I panicked there. You said something about the $1 million club.
Yeah, your experience in the business thus far. So I could be wrong, so I want you to set the record straight. Every year that you've been an ICL owner, you've been in the $1 million club. Is that true?
Last year I did not. We did 975 is what they said. Because if you remember, Jamie, I always planned mine like really knew where I was. And last year they changed it from June to June is when the $1 Million Club used to get ran. And they changed it from January to June, right? Well, I screwed up and promoted the deal in November and then pretty much, trying to get through the winter. We didn't do that well until about July of last year. So no, I missed it by 25 grand last year.
Okay.
But if they wouldn't have switched it, I might have had a shot still. But that's okay. This year, January 1 to July the 5th, we've done 875,000.
Yeah.
I do know that number.
Yeah, you're top 10 guy. You're going to be going to wherever the fancy Fiji trip or whatever that is. So what do you credit that level of success to? Again, I like the mindset you're pushing out to your guys. You have one owner you promoted out who's getting $40,000 wires, which is, obviously awesome. Another rookie owner getting $19,000 wires, but you $1 million club earner every year with the exception of 1 year. I mean, what do you credit that to?
So I think like the understanding that money, all right, I don't really know how to articulate it because money isn't everything, but being able to have your time and to go do things that you really enjoy doing and your freedom and stuff like that. So I'll tell you how I articulate my time and my health first for me. I don't work out all the time, but I watch what I eat and I make sure that I get physical activity by walking the golf course or something, right? I hate lifting weights. I hate running, right? So I don't do it, but I try to be healthy and be conscious about what I eat and what I do. I think family is the second most important thing to me and making sure that I get to spend time with my family, whether it be phone calls twice a week, 3 times a week. But you have to understand money is on my list. Like money's number 3 to me and being able to be a high earner. And I think developing a money mindset was probably what I was missing. I come from a very small town where you don't have to have a lot of money to get nice things and live in nice house because the cost of living is little to nothing in Kentucky. But when you think about the statistics of the average income in the United States is $29 an hour. That's average. That's the millionaires and that's the people who are in poverty, right? And you break that down, it's around $57,000 a year. But before that $57,000 after taxes, take home pay on a $60,000 salary is $45,527 or something like that in Tennessee, because we don't have a state income tax as well. Unfortunately, a lot of other places do, right? So take home pay is $45,000. That's for average people, right? Then I think about like 60% of people in America don't have $1,000 in a savings account. 40% of people in America don't have $600 in a savings account. The average college kid coming out of school, whether they graduate or don't, has $40,000 in college debt. There's $1.75 trillion in college debt out there right now. So then I think about like, is normal ever going to be good? I'm fortunate. I have a fiance that's a physician. I've watched her work 110 hours a week the last 3 years. She like pushes me to do well in my career. If anybody coming into my business gave half of the effort that she gave, that she paid $200,000 to go get educated and to go work for little to nothing for the last 3 years, they would do awesome in our business. So what do I contribute every bit of what I've been able to do here is gratitude. I'm like thankful for what I get to do. I think that I'm decently smart, but what we do is really stupid. It's really easy. And I don't try to overcomplicate running an office. I don't try to overcomplicate sales. I don't try to overcomplicate a stupid thing. And I think what happens is so many people take what we do that is so dumb and so easy and they try to articulate and overcomplicate it so many different ways that they don't do well at it. So I just try to make it simple and easy and I'm never one that's going to go around and flash around like I have this awesome job. I run a sales team. And if you're good enough on my sales team, I'm going to fund your business to open. And that's as simple as I keep it in my pre-management meeting. It's as simple as I keep it in my office meetings. We're here to do sales, to learn how to coach sales, and to learn how to be the best leader we can be. So, but like my whole career is just toward gratitude, right? Like going through the pandemic and watching people lose their jobs and struggling to rub nickels together, and then the government decides they want to pay them all this money, and they're still sad lives. Like we had a great client, AT&T and DirecTV. We had Sidcor that was willing to put forth the money to help us get through those times. How can you not be grateful for something like that and make sure that they're going to get that pay, that payback on the growth too, And that's kind of the way I think about it. Is I'm just really thankful that I have the opportunity to do what I do. And that clears a lot of my mind too, So
That's great, Justin. Love it.
Yep.
We were talking the other day about, in the world of recruiting, we tend to get we're getting a lot of different thoughts on recruiting and what people are doing in today's recruiting wars. You said, hey, listen, I'm really picky. I'm really picky in my new starts. And then you gave me a statistic that I thought was, worth really diving into. You said that less than 10% of your new starts quit within the first 3 months.
Yeah. So I'll tell you this. I looked at that after I talked to you. Since January the 1st this year, we've hired 35 people. 31 of them are still in my organization.
So you've had
I've only hired 35 people since January the 6th is when I did. I didn't count the people that started January the 2nd, but January the 6th on, unfortunate reason, but we had 4 people start and 4 people quit the first week of January this year. We got slammed with an ice storm and I wouldn't let them take off work. They didn't like me very well, but yeah. So we had 31 of 35 people are still in my organization, whether they moved to Knoxville with Cole or Cooper, or they're still here in Nashville.
Okay. So talk us through that. I mean, what do you credit that to?
So I think that the most frustrating thing as an owner is to put your time and your effort into people and then people not reciprocate that. Or then they don't show up. You really feel like you put your effort and your time into those people. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, they're not there anymore. And they're like, fuck, I got to do it again. Right. But I think the reason that happens is that I'm not going to say desperate is the right word because we got to hire people. Right. But if I'm on the fence about somebody, I'm just different than a lot of the owners. I just don't offer that person a position. If I'm on the fence with them, they have to fully have me convinced that they know they're going to be able to come in here and do sales and they want to be a part of the culture and the growth going forward. Like they fully have to have me convinced for that. Because I tell them, like, I guarantee you that if you're committed to it when you start, the commitment gets you started. The consistency through your time in the program will keep you going and get you to the end. Right. But I think if people would just be more picky and let a candidate sell you on why they should come work for your company rather than you sell them on why they should come work for your company. Because there for a while, and I can't say that I wasn't in that position in 2020, I was fucking begging people to come work for me, like begging them. And I'm like, come on, like, let's get back at it. We're back, we're growing, this, that, and other. And then there come a time where finally I was just like, you know what? No, I'm going to go back to my ways of people are going to sell me on why they're a good position for me or why this is a good position for them. So if I'm not fully convinced that they want to be a part of the culture, they want to take advantage of the opportunity and grow with the team, and they think that they're going to be great at the entry level and leadership sales roles, then I'm not offering them a position if I'm on the fence about them, because 9 out of 10 times the person I'm on the fence about isn't there. And I want to protect my own self-esteem. I want to protect my own feelings and not have that turnover in my business. And I think per rep average, you got to have the per rep average in sales to back up. You got to have the stacks. My average leader makes $1,700 a week right now. And that's an easy thing to talk to people about. And I'm confident talking to them about our per rep average. They can feel the confidence when I talk to them, So I think that also, I'm not selling them on why they should do it. So I'm just showing them this is what I'm going to provide for you, if we decide to go forward. Now, why do you feel like you're going to be a great fit in this company? Why do you feel like sales and learning sales is something? Why do you feel like being a coach in sales is a great fit for you? Do you have the competitiveness it takes to really push you forward? And tell me the one thing, if you had to describe yourself, what word would you use? Because if anybody asks me that, like right now, I'm going to tell them I'm a fucking grinder. Like I get things done. That's my asset. So if somebody tells me one word that describes me is, fluffy, I'm probably, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a competitor, something that has to do with their work ethic.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know, sometimes we get in the habit of just asking questions, not really listening to the answer because again, we're just trying to sell them on the position. So again, we'll ask questions without, again, listening, judging, but here you are asking those questions and you're really eyeballing them and you want to be convinced. It's like, so what does it take to convince you?
Selling me on why they're great or why they'll be great at this, and I think, listen, I think every type of sales is different. And I think the amount of time people can put in to the job is important, right? My perfect candidate that I'm looking for is somebody who maybe they don't have obligations outside of work, right? Man, like when you take a vow to be in a marriage, like you're like saying, hey, you're my other half, right? So you're one, right? And that's an obligation. Marriage is an obligation. Children are obligations. Another job is an obligation. Trying to be a bartender full time or a singer full time in Nashville, that's an obligation these guys have to either just go do or don't do it here. So I think a lot of things that I look for are people that don't have a lot of obligations that can invest the time into it early on to get good at it quick. And I'm a big appearance guy too. Like if you're, this is the thing about Zoom. People get on Zoom all the time and they got their shirt off or they're walking around in the wilderness doing their first round interview. Like I don't give a shit how sharp you are. If you're walking around with your phone in your hand to do an interview, you're not getting to come back for a second round with me. Right now, the only people I will give a pass on is if they're at work and they're like out in their car doing the interview because they don't want to miss work or can't miss work, but they want to get away from it. Like I'll give them a pass. But if they're sitting at home on their couch and they're wearing like just a t-shirt, like dude, the guys that get on Zoom and they got a suit on sitting on their couch because it's a fucking interview. I'm just not letting that person come into my business that is wearing a gym t-shirt or they're sweating because they just got done running or whatever it is. It's an interview, they got to sell me on them coming to my business I had a kid walk into my office this afternoon with his resume in hand and handed it to me. He said, hey, I saw you guys online. You're a sales firm. I'm in physical therapy school right now. I actually did a lot of research on you guys, looked y'all up. I did a lot of research on you already, looked up your background. I see you play baseball at Western, like blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'd really like to interview with y'all because I really want to leave PT school and get into sales. This dude's like this 6'4", good looking guy. I'm like, fuck yeah. That's how you sell somebody on why they should be working for your company. So what it takes to sell me is you gotta have the appearance. I prefer less obligations so you can invest in your career. And I prefer to have somebody that will talk about their competitive nature. Because sales is a competitive thing, I think. Would most people on this call say that they're somewhat of a competitor? Is anyone on this call just like, no, I'm not competitive at all? Right? I mean, then that's the type of person we're looking for. Let's just don't fluff it and say that, oh, well, somebody that's not competitive can still do well. No, you're wrong. They might for a week. But if they don't have competitiveness in them, they're not going to do well the second week, So let's just cut the shit on it.
That's great, Justin. And to your point, I mean, it helps you manage your feelings about how you're feeling about your business. And, when you have minimal turnover like that and you're growing. I mean, it's not like you're growing by 2 or 3 new hires a week. I mean, you're averaging, tell me if I'm wrong, but you're growing by about a rep a week. You're just not turning anybody over.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, right now it's probably like less than a rep a week. I mean, we're probably at like 0.7 reps per week average, but yeah, we just don't turn them over. Like I got one guy right now that's 35 days in entry level. He's the first one in the last 2 months, 3 months that I can remember that's not going to get promoted to leadership. You know, and it sucks but also he went out of town his second week on a vacation that was already planned. He come back, he had to miss for 2 or 3 other things. Like, he didn't put the effort in. You can't get mad getting the results or not getting the results without doing the work, you know? I think that's an old Inky Johnson. Y'all know who Inky Johnson is? UT football. Says you can't get mad or upset by not getting the results when you didn't put in the work or something. I don't know. No.
And so what do you credit your high dollar per rep to? I mean, answer could be, Jamie, did you just hear what I said? I mean, I'm hiring competitive guys that, you've got a pretty good screening process to get into your door, but I mean, your average rep making 1,700 a week. I mean, that's a great business you're running here. So what's going on?
You know what it is, Jamie, and it sucks because so many organizations' motto is like, go to the field so you can get out of the field and run your own company, right? And I'm sure some of you guys, being from the HEP org, which is the best org, don't tell Ed I said that, but like, so many managers talk to reps about go to the field, bust your ass, get to management, grow your office, then you don't have to go to the field ever. And that's the truth. You don't have to. But what you do when you don't have to do something is the way you get different results, right? So what I mean by that is 3 weeks ago, before I went to Turks and Caicos last week, but 2 weeks before that, I went to the field for 5 days and I closed $3,800 in sales. My wire was $56,000 that week. Why did I do that? Not because I had to go to the field, because when I go do something, I expect my guys to do half of it. My standard's $1,500 a week. Why is my standard $1,500 a week? Because I know I can go do $3,000 in a week. And if I go do $3,000 in a week in sales, I can hold them to a standard of being 50% as good as me. They're never going to be as good as me in the field. If I go and do $3,000, that can't be my standard. I should be better than them, but they can do half, right? So about once every 3 months, I make sure no matter how many guys are in my office, no matter how big my wire is, I don't care. I go to the field for 5 days and I murder it because everybody has already been there. Maybe this group of people that have only been in my office now for 7 weeks, this is the first time they've seen me in the field, right? But the people we hire between now and 2 months from now, when I go back to the field, they'll never know that I ever went to the field. So they'll never know that was a standard they have to live up to. But I'll go back out and I'll set that standard. And it's like this. I don't tell my guys, you look at Cooper, wire was $31,000 today or something like that. And Cooper is in the field every single day until he gets to his 20 liters. And then it's once a week, once a month, and it's a progressive thing of, I think too many people are afraid to go back in and do the thing that makes us money. And put your pride aside, because when you do it, you can hold everybody to that standard. It's not going to be as much as you, but it can be half of what you do.
You're not rusty when you go back out there? I mean, going in.
No, Jamie, no? I'm slick. I'm slick like snot. The first customer of the day the other day, he was like, I hadn't pitched, I hadn't practiced pitched or anything. And he was like, yeah, I'm kind of busy right now. I said, all right, great. Have a good day. So yeah, I'm a little rusty, but then as soon as I walked away, the guy that was with me, he said, man, that was pathetic. I said, I know, I'll be better on the next one though. And then literally next objection, I was fine. But just that first customer is the rust. After that, it's like riding a bicycle. Awesome. It's just the thing of going out and going in the field. And I don't know why, because, and there's like things like every once in a while, I'll have some goals where, I wanted to buy a watch not long ago. And it's not that I didn't have the money already saved in an account, but I hadn't set a goal to buy this watch. I had no reason to go buy a watch. So I was like, I'm going to buy this watch now. I would never, Jamie, I'm stingy. I'm like to the penny. Like, I'm not a nice guy, got to have everything material guy. When I see numbers and commas in my investment accounts and my retirement accounts, that's what's motivating to me, not necessarily driving a Bentley or a Tesla, right? So, but like a watch, I'm like, that's a staple piece. It'll hold its value. They're pretty. I always wanted one. So I went out to the field for 1 week. And in that 1 week in sales, I did like $4,200. This was back in January. My total contribution to my wire that week was over $8,000. My watch was 11. Fuck, it cost me $3,000 in 5 days in the field to buy me a watch, you know? And that's just how I think about like material things that I want. I'll go to the field to get it rather than taking my earnings that I've already had or previous earnings, just because I'm a penny pincher.
Hmm. Hmm. Were you
You
that
know?
kind of a beast as a leader in the field too?
Yeah. I saved money as a leader. This is what I did as a leader. I did paper checks. I did paper checks up until my first year of management. But what I would do is when my checking account would go down and down and down, I would like save the paper checks. And let's say I went 5 weeks without cashing one, then I go to the bank and I would cash all 5. And then I would go 20 weeks without cashing a check and go drop 20 checks off at the bank. Because when the money's not in there, you spend it a lot slower. So that's what I always did. Now I haven't done that for years. I got a pretty decent financial savvy about me now. But yeah, I was pretty I was like that in the field. But I also only missed 1 day of work when I was in the field. And my ex-girlfriend made me go to a wedding with her. I didn't even want to go. I wouldn't tell my manager. I made her call my manager and tell her I was going to a wedding. But I missed 1 day the entire time I was in the field. 1 day. September like the 25th, went and watched a Michigan versus Michigan State football game and went to a wedding the Saturday before. And I was already at like an 8-tier bonus Monday through Friday that week and flew out Friday night. But like, you know, like I was raised just to grind. My dad, when I was a kid, I used to sell the world's finest chocolate bars. Y'all remember that? Anybody played Little League sports and you had to sell chocolate bars to raise money? Right. So when I was a kid, like everybody had to sell 40 of them to pay for your jersey. And my dad was the president of the baseball league. And there was always hundreds of chocolate boxes left over. And what do most kids do when their parents give them the box of chocolate bars? They buy them from their kid and then they eat them themselves. They don't make the kid go sell them, right? But my dad told me, he said, after your first box that you got to sell for your jerseys and whatever else, he said, I will pay you $1 per bar that you sell. I'm not shitting you. He did it for 2 years and he's like, I can't do it. I did it when I was 10 and 11. And by the time I was 12, he wouldn't do it again because I would go sell like 40 boxes of chocolate bars. You know what I mean? So like that's as a kid. Then he started giving me $100 for every home run I hit over the fence. Do you know how hard I worked when I was 10, 11, 12 to start hitting the ball over the fence? I'm not shitting you. I swear to God on my life, my like 11-year-old summer, I dropped like 50 bombs. He was like, I can't pay you no more, not at $100 a piece, right? And then when I go to college, my grandma starts paying me for A's. I made a 2.6 GPA in high school, right? I go to college and I make straight A's, $100 a pop. That was beer money. So I'm always been motivated by the carrot, you know? So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions here for Justin? We're kind of a time right now, but anybody have any questions? That you've brought a unique perspective to this call here, Justin. I really appreciate that.
I got one big piece of advice. It's the best thing I've ever heard in my life. I don't know who told me, but somebody told me long before I ever started doing this business. And I probably heard it 2 or 3 times while I've been running an office, but it was the best single piece of advice that I'd ever heard. And it was one of my college summer league coaches that told us, because like baseball and sports and everything is very mental. You fail 7 out of 10 times to make in the Hall of Fame in baseball. As a pitcher, you can't mentally check out any pitch of the game because that hitter is going to take you yard if you hang a breaking ball or if you throw a fastball down the middle. It just doesn't happen, right? It's like mentally over the years of my life, I had a lot of good coaches that did that. But one of my favorite coaches all time, he told me this. He said, sit down in a quiet room by yourself with a glass of whatever you like to drink, water, Gatorade, whatever your favorite flavor is. If you like bourbon, vodka, tequila, it does not matter. Sit down by yourself with no one else around, right? No kids, no dogs, no wife, nobody, by yourself, no distractions. It's got to be limitless, right? And write down a list on a piece of paper of everything that you want for Justin Hageman out of his life. And back then they were trying to get us to think about professional baseball and how we're going to achieve that and stuff like that. And now I think about that in a business form of like, write down everything you want to achieve out of life. Because, hey, my mindset has been like this since I was 17 years old. You know, going into my junior year of college, I was projected top 30 picks in the MLB draft. I've always had an idea that I was going to be a millionaire and have nice things, right? Well, unfortunately, got hurt and didn't make it that way. But write down everything that you want out of your life. And then you ask yourself 3 questions, right? Number 1, am I willing to do the work? Right? After you get your list of everything that you want, am I willing to do the work? And that was in baseball big time because, Jamie, you probably know, sports is all about conditioning the body. It's really not about going out and pitching and hitting that day. It's about the 6 days prior to that start, what you did physically to get yourself in the right mindset and the right physical capability. So you ask those questions, like you ask, am I willing to do the work? If the answer is no, right? Like I'm not willing to run 7 miles at 5 o'clock in the morning to get in physical good shape. I'm not willing to watch film for 4 hours. I'm not willing to go to the field and knock doors till 8 o'clock on Friday night. If the answer is ever no, you have to modify your list. My list when I was in college was, I want to be on the MLB All-Star team. I want to pitch in the All-Star game, right? I want to have the highest contract signed, whatever it was. They were outrageous lists, right? But you have to modify that list and mark off things. If the answer is ever no, I'm not willing to do the work, then you have to modify your list, right? And then in our business, the question I ask is that, do you think you have a vehicle to hit that type of success? Right. And with our business, I have yet to meet someone in a position that I look forward to that can say, no, this is not the vehicle to get you to that type of success. Right now, does anybody in our business have a 150-foot yacht in the Caribbean? No. Right. But like, could they, if they would have invested their money smarter when they were 24 for the next 25 years being 50? Jamie, how old are you? 42?
49, my friend.
All right, 49, 50 years old, Jamie. If you would have took every penny when you were 25 years old and invested it smartly throughout your last 25 years and hit the $2 million club every year like you have, could you have that $50 million yacht yet? If the answer is no, not yet, then maybe 10 more years from now, right? Whatever it is, somebody's going to say, yes, this vehicle can't get you to most things that you and I want. Now, if it's something extravagant like that, you might just have to be financially smarter with your money along the way, right? So make your list. Am I willing to do the work? Is this the right vehicle to get me there? If the answer is no, I'm not willing to do the work, modify the list. But my motto is, I'm not marking shit off my list unless I have it. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not modifying my list based off of effort. You know, every person on this call is self-made. The only ones that admit it are the ones that are successful. So sorry for keeping y'all over, Jamie, and sorry for being late. But if y'all need anything else, you can give them my contact info. Cool.
Well, that's awesome, Justin. I appreciate you, brother. And
thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
You.
Bye.
Guys.